Well, welcome into Leveraging Your Reality, where mindset meets movement. I'm Siobhan Terrell Camper, your realignment coach and partner in growth. This channel is for leaders, parents, and people who want to stop surviving and start showing up as a healthier version of themselves in life, in relationships, and in leadership. If you're ready to align with your truth and elevate, you are in the right place. It's been a while since I have connected with you all, and boy, the summer has been real. I find it amazing as a parent that every summer I seem to get amnesia of how summer really goes down. So my kids get out of school in May, and in my mind, I'm counting down until they're out of school because life is going to be so much simpler. I don't know how I lie to myself like this every year, but every year I pull off lying to myself in this way. And June comes in, it's like a dead week. The last week in May is no sports, no anything. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. And then that next week hits, and this person needs to go that place, that one needs to go over there. And somehow or another, everything's scheduled like people work from home. Like people don't have jobs. Forget work from home, you just don't have a job. So I'm over here flipping my schedule, contorting it in all types of ways, trying to make it so I could get this one to practice at 7 a.m., that one to practice at 11 a.m., got training at 3 p.m. I'm like, how does one work with all these moving pieces? Either way, the summer steamrolls me every year, and next year I'm going to be better. I really am going to be better because I'm going to remember this time. I may even write a note to myself, just put a reminder. Hey, I know this seems hard right now, but the summer is a bit harder. And you know what's so much harder about summer is they're home all day. I thought like being home would make it easier because like we don't got to get anyone up in the morning. We don't have to move. But in reality, them being home all day makes them disruptors to what I'm doing throughout the day for work. But we survived the summer, people. It was real. It was chaotic. And I thought I was ahead of the game because last year what I learned was okay, they need to be all these places. So in January, I ordered the kids some scooters, some electric scooters, and I was like, all right, y'all gonna scoot where y'all need to go. These scooters go up to 20 miles per hour. Like you in less than a 3 mile radius. Let's make this happen. But no, that didn't happen. It really didn't happen. It was too hot some days. It rained some days. I mean, it happened a couple times, but it wasn't as consistent as this theory I made up in my head of what it was actually going to be. The summer was real. It was rough. But people, I survived. And I think that's like a big part of like this work. A lot of times when where we have a goal in mind, right? We could forget to consider what's going to happen along the way. And we go in all fanciful, you know what I mean. And then others of us plan everything that's going to go bad, and we don't even get started half the time. We just stop just because it was overwhelming. But something that I want myself, my kids, and others to know is to be reminded of, because I think intellectual, we know a lot of things, but again, we get amnesia and we forget. No journey is going to be easy. None of them. They all come with ups and downs, and a big part of it is endurance and being able to endure the tough times and not just survive it, but to really go through it from a place of being positive, seeing your goal and focusing on that, even when it gets hard. Because in those hard times, it's so easy to go into complainer mode. And in complainer mode, it's everybody else's fault. This is wrong, that's wrong. All you can see is what's wrong. And when things are coming down, like it's so easy to do, to get caught up in what's going wrong. And when we limit ourselves to complainer mode, what then happens is we step out of creator mode. And creator mode is this mode where you know what the situation is. It is what it is. And you've accepted that this is what it is. And you're looking for the opportunities of what can be different. How can I begin to make some adjustments to set myself up for better situations? You know, the one of the funny parts about just being on this journey to growth, realizing that there's no end destination. There's just another level, another chapter that will reveal itself is I'm to this point right now where I'm a more evolved version of me. I'm probably the most evolved I've ever been in many ways. And just because I have evolved, it doesn't mean that my all the decisions that my less evolved self are going to disappear. Heck no, they are right there staring me in front of my face. And talking about that complainer thing, right? I would be in a place of something goes wrong. I'm like, it's Kyle's fault. Kyle's my husband. I'm like, it's Kyle's fault. He did whatever happened is his fault. And I'll point the finger at him. That was my less evolved self. Now that I'm more evolved, I'm like, okay, what part of this am I responsible for? And I look at what I'm responsible for. And I've been really intentionally looking at how did I get me here? And looking at what are the actions and decisions that I made to get me to this place. And it's hilarious because as I'm doing this, I'm starting to notice where people off put the responsibility on other people. And my kid, I don't work in the office anymore. I'm at home. So a lot of examples are my family because that's who I'm around most of the time. But my son came in this morning and he said, the bus driver rode right past me. Can you take me to school? And that was one of those moments where I was like, no responsibility. I wonder where he got that from. He got it from me because I've been showing him it's everybody else's fault but mine. So normally when my kids miss the bus, I freak out, get all crazy, and have a level of anger that's disproportionate to the situation. And as I was sitting in the car waiting for my son to come, I I I saw how the past me would have handled this, and I saw how the present me was handling this, and I was like, God dang, I really have evolved. Because I would have been ready to chop his head off by the time he got in the car, lectured him the whole 10 minutes it took to drive to the school. But what I said this time instead was, hey, son, earlier you mentioned that the bus driver just rode right past you. And he was like, yeah, he sure did. And I said, oh, so this is after they did the bus stop and when they come back around to leave out of the development, right? Yes, it's after. So essentially you had already missed the bus. Yes, he rode right past me. I said, okay, son, something I'm working on is taking responsibility for the outputs that I'm getting in my life. And I want you to learn this as I learn it too. Now, what part of this is your responsibility? He said, well, yesterday, the not yesterday, the last week, he picked up somebody else and he did the same thing. I said, we're not focusing on the bus driver. We focusing on your part. Because the reality is we can often get so distracted by holding other people accountable to their parts that we have not checked in on accountability on our part. And that's what I was offering my son the opportunity to do. Like, hey, yeah, the bus driver did what he did. You can't do anything about that. That's done and over with. Now, your part. And he said, well, I woke up late. I said, now we're getting down to something. You woke up late. And you see, just a moment ago, he was in complainer mode. The bus driver this, last week he did that for that person. He didn't do it for me. That's straight complainer mode. Now, the moment that we decide to take responsibility for our side of the fence, what happens is we now are entering creator mode. Right then and there, he has shifted into creator mode because it went from I woke up late to me asking, well, what can you do differently? And he said, one, I don't need to take a nap on a Sunday because it makes me stay up all night. And two, I need to go to bed on time. I need to go to bed at a more reasonable hour. I said, yeah, that's your part. That's your part. And other things that we talked about, pick your clothes out at night. So everything's already laid out. And in that moment, bringing my son into creator mode was like my part as a parent of helping him to facilitate stepping into creator mode. Man, there are so many things that I did not learn growing up. My parents did the best with what they had. And in so many ways, I'm having to reparent myself because I'm learning better and then I'm doing better. And I have to rework so many of the things that I didn't know better about. And at the same time, I'm doing it with my kids. My kids are older now. They've watched me be the way I am for the past several years and picked up some of those tendencies. And when I see those tendencies in them that I'm working on, it's my job as a parent to help to facilitate their growth into a different way. But I really want you all to take a moment and think about, where in your life are you complaining? Usually the complaint areas pop up pretty quick. And just list them down. Top 3 areas that you're doing a good amount of complaining in. And from here, a big part of it is, this is where it gets challenging. To challenge yourself to think about your responsibility in that output. Because everything that's happening in our lives, we have responsibility in it. If we give responsibility to the spouse, the boss, the job, the neighbor, whoever it may be, we literally relinquish our power. And when our power is relinquished, we can't do anything to change it because we cannot control or change the actions of another person. They decide when to change, if they want to change. They decide all that. You can't control that. So it's like, leave that alone. I mean, yes, you can influence people, but oftentimes we're so busy trying to influence other people and we're not looking at, where do I need to be influencing myself? And a big part of my practice is around starting with you. It is really starting with you. If you become a healthier, better version of yourself, naturally your situations are going to change. Naturally, they are going to change. And even if the situation isn't changing at the rate that you want it to change, your perspective of the situation is changing. Now, all of a sudden, hard times go from being hard, oh my goodness, it's happening to me, into, wow, this is a challenge. It's helping me to grow. It's helping me to be a better version of myself. It's helping me to see things that I didn't realize just last month. And that little shift in perspective takes you from complainer mode into creator mode. And in that creator mode, there's just so much more positivity. And when we're positive, we can see what's working for us and then work it a little bit better. This reminds me of, I was on a call today with a client earlier this morning, and essentially they were talking about they are up for promotion and they need to have this conversation with their manager about being promoted. And at the same time, they found out that one of their counterparts makes a lot more money way more money than them, like over $20,000 more. And this person is at the promotion level. So it's not her current level, at the promotion level. And she's saying to me, like, what do I need to say and how do I need to say it that I get this raise that I deserve, because since this person left, that person left, I've been doing all these jobs. And at the beginning of the session, what she was mostly focused on is, how can I convince them to just give me more money. And by the middle of the session, part of my question was, what do you want more money to do? Like, what are you trying to get that you cannot currently get? And some of the things were certain type of housing, traveling, wardrobe things. And part of what we talked about is, let's say your income doesn't change. How can we begin to have conversations to give you access to the things you want and what you're working with? And part of her dilemma was that, no, but I really like making six figures, like that's going to make me successful. And I was like, and then you'll move the finish line like we all do. And that won't be success anymore. There'll be another moment of success. And that's like the chase. We keep chasing after the next thing, and then we upgrade our lifestyles, and then now we have to maintain this income because we upgraded our lifestyle to match the new salary that we're making. And it keeps us in this constant race to the top that never ends. And we end up with these extravagant lifestyles that weren't even really necessary. No, I may have not been able to travel 5-6 times a year, but I was able to travel 1 to 3 times a year. That's okay. Like, everything doesn't have to be grand and amazing all the time. Like, this is part of what is creating our cycle of debt and normalizing that debt because we're trying to upgrade our lifestyles faster than we can actually afford it instead of appreciating what we have. It's like, man, I wish, like, when I started working, I made $39,000 a year. And somehow or another, we survived off of that. And we figured it out. And I think that's what we do. We figure it out. And it's so easy to keep going up. And like, oh, now I could get this. Now I could get that. Now I could get this. Now I could get that. And it's like the getting never ends because there's always something to get. It's more about how can I appreciate what I already have without having to need the next thing just because I saw somebody with it on social media or just because that person at work has it. I don't have to have everything that everyone else has. I'm taking this class, and one of the things it says I need to work on is healthy deprivation. I was like, oh, wow. Healthy deprivation, aka learning to tell myself no. And that was a real check for myself. I'm like, when is the last time I told myself no? It's like, I don't know. I usually say yes to me. Now, from a parenting standpoint, I can't always tell my kids yes. But from a me standpoint, I'm saying, yes, you can have that. Let's figure out how to do it. Yes, you can have that. Let's figure out how to do it. And I think that's cool in moderation. Some of the ways in which I'm figuring out how to have things are creating more debt and completely unnecessary. So that's one of the things that I've been practicing with myself is saying no. Siobhan, you cannot have that. Or sometimes is you can't have that right now. Not to say I can't ever have it, but I can't have it right now. Or some things is like, you don't even need that. And just holding myself to that level of accountability and just gratitude, appreciating what I already have versus constantly thinking that I need more. So much of what has been ingrained in us from many different avenues, from school, society, family, social media, it makes us believe that we're missing so much. But in reality, we have a lot. We are so fortunate in many, many, many ways. It may not always be the best or the most lavish, but it doesn't make it less fortunate. Something I want you to keep in mind as you continue on your journey is challenging yourself in those areas where you are complaining and see how you can move from complaining to creating and checking yourself. Hey, this thing that I'm saying that I have to have and I need it right now, do I actually need it right now? Really, do I actually have to have it right now? Or is it just a want and I'm making it a need? And making that transition of this is something I want. This is something I desire. This is something I would like to experience. And what's the journey to me having that experience versus I have to have it right now in this moment. If I don't have it in this moment, then it means I'm terrible. It means I'm less. It means I'm not worthy. It means I'm not valuable. We go on telling ourselves so many false stories. We don't want a relationship. No one wants to date a liar. At least I hope not. Like, typically, no one wants to be with someone who is not honest. Yet, over and over and over again, we lie to ourselves. I need that. No, you don't. You want it. That's a lie. You do not need it. You want it. They're treating me so terribly. Are they? Are they? What was your part in this? And really checking yourself, because it's easy to make things turn into the worst scenario in the world. I've done this so many times in my marriage, over and over again. Now we all know no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. My husband's not perfect. But you know how many times in my marriage I have made it the worst marriage walking on planet Earth? Just because of the things that I was telling myself, the way I was telling myself, how I was telling myself. I was creating these stories for myself that were not full truths. There was truth to it, but it wasn't the full truth. And it made me unappreciative. It put me right on up in complainer mode. I was choosing to tell myself these negative things that help me see more problems, which help me get into more complaining, which helps it look like I don't have a great situation. When in reality, I do. There are so many things that are great. And even looking at, too, my own imperfections. Somebody else has to deal with the imperfections of me, just like I have to deal with the imperfections of them. And am I dealing with the imperfections of others in a way in which I would want them to handle me and my imperfections? That's real, right? Am I treating you in a way that I would want to be handled in that same exact situation? Am I kicking you when you're down? Am I empathizing? Am I encouraging? Am I talking down to you? Like, how am I interacting with you? Because at some point, the shoe is going to be on the other foot. It may not be in the same exact situation, but it'll be another situation. And you're going to want them to treat you with some empathy. You're going to want them to take some time to understand. But if you're not creating an environment for that with people, naturally, you don't get that environment back. And that's that piece of taking responsibility. Even if I don't love my work situation, or even if I am not satisfied with different parts of my life, or whatever it may be, how am I showing up in this? When I look back years from now, will I see myself as the person who showed up as the complainer, pointing out all the negative things? Or will I see myself showing up as in creator mode, the person who created and tried to make adjustments, tried to make things different? Because when we look back, we want to be able to say, wow, I'm proud of how I showed up in that moment. Like earlier, when I was in the car with my son and I was walking him through taking responsibility, what was his parts in it. When I dropped him off, I was so proud of myself for how I handled it. So now, mentally, that whole thing drifts away. If I had handled that in an inappropriate or unhealthy way, now I would have had to ruminate on that all day, thinking about what I could have done differently, what they should have done differently. It would have taken up so much mental capacity in my mind for the next 24 hours, possibly the next week. When you find yourself ruminating on something over and over and over again, oftentimes, deep down, we are out of alignment with how we showed up in that situation. Not saying the other person's perfect or they did it all right, but any rumination usually stems from how you showed up and that being out of alignment with yourself. Really think about that. Take that situation that you just nagging, you just can't get it off your mind, and check how you showed up and see if you showed up the way you wanted to show up or not. Most likely you didn't. And that's the thing you're ruminated on. But so often we go to the other person. They made me feel like this. They made me think like this. They made me act like this. No, you chose that. You chose to act that way. You chose to show up that way. And if it's out of alignment with how you want to show up, if you chose to do it that way in the first place, you could choose to do it another way in the second place and just show up a little bit better the next time. Because when you show up better, boom, that stuff falls right out of your mind. You get to move right along versus, I call it like emotional baggage. It just piles up. It piles up because it starts clogging. And then before you know it, you're emotionally constipated. And you're wondering, what's wrong? All that stuff clogged up because we blamed other people and we didn't look at what can I take responsibility? What's my part in this? Because if you go into that conversation with whomever, and even if they act however they want to act and you showed up the way you want to show up, at night, you're going to go to sleep with a higher level of peace than they will, hands down. These are the tough conversations that we don't often have. I know in our society today, when you focus on yourself, people are like, it's selfish. It's selfish. Why you focus on yourself? We have to remember that we are the constant in everything that we show up in, everything. And if we ignore ourselves, then we can't make adjustments. We're so busy trying to adjust everybody else that we can't make the adjustments that we need to make. I focus on having you focus on yourself. Because if you become a better version of you, naturally, your situation shift because you have shifted. I want you to remember, growth isn't always easy. But when we're doing it together, it becomes possible. If you found the conversation valuable today, hit subscribe, share it with someone on their journey, because we don't grow alone, we grow together. Until next time, keep showing up and keep leveraging your reality.